do during this kind of holiday season, I travel around and go see family, and this year is no different. In fact, I actually have added a couple extra travel times. I'll be leaving today after Toastmasters and heading up hopefully to Iowa City, if the weather holds out, to see my sister, my youngest sister, who's actually 23 years younger than me, graduate from college. And she's the fifth child to graduate from an Iowa school. And as my dad likes to tell everybody, it has been 40 consecutive years that he has had someone in school, from when I started kindergarten until my youngest sister has now graduated from college. So 40 consecutive years. I think he said 42, and I said I didn't go to preschool. He's like, fine, that's 40. So he's gone 40 consecutive years of somebody in school. And then also I'll be leaving next week to go see my mom, who lives in Iowa, and also to see my dad again and that family. And an extra thing, we're staying a little bit longer because on Saturday, I will be going to a party for my grandparents, who also live in Iowa, and they will be celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary. Not their birthday, but they have been married for 70 years. And they still live at home together in their house. And it will be one of those things where they'll have many kind of friends and family, extended family. And I'll be there with my grandparents and their 4 sons and wives. And I have 17 first cousins, and so 17 grandchildren. And they have 19 great-grandchildren as of right now. And so this is just kind of this core group of people. And when I was traveling up over Thanksgiving, I was thinking about Iowa and my experiences in Iowa. And I was kind of thinking, I could tell some of these stories at Toastmasters. These could make some good stories or things that I can talk about. And so I kind of put some of those stories in my head and kind of saved them for later. Well, then I realized last week that I actually had to give a speech this week. And so I'm like, cool, I can start talking about some of these stories that I've been thinking about. And as I was getting all this information, thinking about these stories, I was thinking about how living in Iowa has made an impact on me and how it's influenced kind of who I am or who I've become. And what I started to learn is that it really wasn't Iowa, per se. As Brad told me at our mixer, he says, Iowa's a big topic. I was like, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, it's true. And so I started to realize that it's more my family and my experience with my family that has been an influence and that has impacted me. And I just kind of kept delving into this and kind of diving a little bit deeper and realizing that I always appreciated my family, but I didn't really realize they're just kind of this core place for me to land, as something where there's consistency and trust, and no matter what's happened and all the flighty things that I have done, they've always been there for me, and they've been this constant influence for me. And although, like I said, I've appreciated them and I've always loved my family, I've always been a little bit jealous of people who say that they have a hero or someone they look up to or someone that has inspired them to do great things. I've read books that have inspired me, but I've never really felt like I had that person to say, oh, I really look up to them and I emulate them and that type of thing. And I kind of had a little aha moment that I really do have this. I have this tribe of people that are my influence. And it was a really kind of good feeling to know that I do have these people in my life. And it's just not one person, it's this group of people. And so I want to ask you as well, who has influenced you? Was it a person? Is there a teacher or a parent, maybe even a spouse, or maybe someone, maybe it's more of an event or an experience that you had in life as far as going through college, or maybe a religious experience or a mission trip. For some people, it's just 1 or 2 people that influence them. Maybe you have a tribe, like I do. Or maybe you have several different experiences that have kind of moved you along this path. as a teacher, there's a story that's always been inspirational as far as a story goes. And it was actually originally written back in 1974 in Home Journal magazine. And it's entitled Teddy's 3 Letters. And it's about a student and a teacher in 5th grade. And he was struggling and not really performing well, and she wasn't really warming up to Teddy. But as the year went along, she learned a little bit more about his circumstances and things that had happened to him in his life. And she started to really take him under her wing and believe in him and gave him confidence and things that he was really needing. And he moved on, and Teddy had written 3 letters, and one of them was in high school to go back and tell Miss Thompson that she was the very best teacher that he had ever had in 5th grade, and that he was inspired and actually graduated in the top of his class in high school. And he wrote another letter to her when he was in college, saying that as he was becoming a doctor, that she again had influenced him and was the very best teacher he had. And then he wrote a final letter where he actually invited her to be at his wedding in place of his mother because she had passed away. So Teddy was continually telling Miss Thompson how she had influenced him, this one person. But in turn, Teddy had also inspired Miss Thompson because it had changed how she had taught for the rest of her career. In addition to that, that story's 30 years ago, but it's still making an impact today. There's actually a website that still talks about this story and still works to try to help other children that are out there. And so it's kind of like one of Mark's stories where you throw the pebble out there and it has that ripple effect that keeps going and going. And actually here in town, a little bit closer to home, last month in the Kansas City Star was a story about a lady named Tammy. And she turned 40 in November of 2012 and kind of had a little pity party. Who hasn't had a pity party when they turn 40? Some of you haven't because you haven't turned 40. But you will have a pity party for a little while. And then, so she had a pity party, but it didn't last too long. And she started to kind of write down things that she was grateful for. And she came and decided to find 40 people that had influenced or inspired her in her life. And what she did was chose to write each one of those people and tell them what she did, what they did for her. In addition to that, she told them that she was going to honor them and thank them for what they've done by going out into the community and doing something else in the community in honor of these 40 people. And so then they wrote her story in the Star about how she influenced these people. And the owner of the Roastery, which is a coffee place here in town, read that story and decided he was going to do the same thing. And so he's come up, and this came through my email just this week, he came up with 50 people that he has been influenced by or that have inspired him. And he's going to go and do 50 acts of random kindness in the community. So this ripple effect, you can see that Tammy spent and threw out 40 pebbles on this side and thanked the people that had influenced her. She also sent out 40 pebbles into the community, and who knows how far that goes. And then she also has this article in the Star that sent ripples of thanks and let people know how they inspired them. And this inspired Danny from the Roastery, who inspired me to think a little bit more about my life and what I've done. And so I just want to encourage you. There's these little cards. And it's just to make you think of these top 5 people that have inspired you, and to keep those ripples going, and to realize that it's important also to thank people who have inspired you. And I do want to thank, I know I'm almost close to my time, but in my top 5 is this group of people. And I really want to thank you for being an inspiration to me. My family, of course, that tribe is up there, but I call this my Toastmasters group, but it's not really Toastmasters. It's all of you individually and your stories and things that you give to us and just being willing to share and be open and honest. And so I appreciate that. And I want to wish you happy holidays and